And we welcome you to this Night Shift instant reaction. It's our sixth season doing this. We were the original Eric Lopez here with you, and glad to be on the air. It's a little later than we would have liked after a little more unique game, we'll put it. I'm not even going to call it a competitive game. I'm not even going to call it a positive game. I'm just going to call it a whatever that. What was that? Would be probably the better statement. We'll address all of that. Coming up, we're going to break down this UCF 17-10 win over Jacksonville State. What was some positives? Believe it or not, there are some positives here. A lot of ugly and a lot of questions are going to be addressed on this question, on this deal. Of course, you could watch us on the YouTube channel on Night Shift, and of course, listen on the podcast feed as well. We hope to have every post-game live instant reaction, the original live instant reaction post-game show. You got a bunch of imitators now doing it, but trust me, they don't know anything. They don't know what they're doing. They've never been into a press box. They've never probably done post-game interviews. Some of them haven't even been born by the time. And remember George O'Leary whiffing on head coach and quarterback decisions back in the day of Rob Calabrese, all right? So those are things we're going to talk about on this show. You can leave your comments. I definitely want your questions. We're going to address them all. Kyle Nash and Don Strouble are at the game. They're at the post-game press conference. So I will be here for a little while. We'll see how long this goes. And, of course, go to blackandgoldbanneret.com for the latest, and we'll have a recap up there in the game. We're the only place that could do that. Recap will be on the site probably by the morning. We'll have this, obviously, podcast feed as well as on the YouTube stream on the video. All right, I'm going to give you my thoughts here and get going. This was ugly, and it's what I do not understand. One thing UCF has now, a head coach has a tradition, whether it's Scott Frost, whether it's Gus Malzahn, whether it's Josh Heupel, whether it's George O'Leary. Every coach I have mentioned there has whiffed on picking an opening day starting quarterback. Every time there's been a quarterback competition, they've pretty much have whiffed. And I don't understand why we keep missing. Because you look going back to the O'Leary era, there was a lot of whiffs there. You go back to probably the most famous one, Rob Calabrese, back-to-back years, 2009, 2010. Whiffing. Have no purpose, no reason to start. Lost. Eventually, Brett Hodges bailed them out in the opener against Sanford. There was a lot of similarities between that game and this game tonight. 2010, George O'Leary goes once again with Rob Calabrese. Didn't learn his lesson from the year before. Goes with Calabrese over a young freshman named Jeff Gottfried. Jeff Gottfried comes off the bench, nearly pulls off the comeback against NC State, takes over. They win CUSA that year. Probably the most indefensible one, 2014, when George O'Leary decides, I'm going to start Pete DeNovo for the opener in Ireland against Penn State over Justin Holman. We saw how that lasted a half of some of the most worst football ever played by a quarterback at UCF. Justin Holman comes in, nearly leads him to come back, lose the game because he didn't play the full game. If he plays the full game, they win that game. You go to Heupel, 2019, decides to go with Brandon Wimbush, who we all question whether he can throw the football when he was at Notre Dame, but maybe figured out. Starts him for the opener. Next thing you know, we see Dylan Gabriel the next game, and all she wrote on that. Gus has been well documented. Certainly everybody has their opinions on the whole JRP Mikey Keene situation on that. That's one that people will bring up for sure. I would argue he whiffed, obviously, in his evaluation of KJ Jefferson. He's whiffed on even last year and who to play the quarterback. And here we are this year. Scott Frost decides they have a quarterback competition. You have two new guys. You have a guy in Cam Fancher who started and didn't really pan out at Marshall and FAU. You have Ja'Cory Brown, the returner. And then you have Tavian Jackson, who's the highly touted kid Indiana, Tennessee. Everybody's telling you in spring camp. Everybody's telling you in fall part he's got the best arm. But yet Fancher knows the system. So he gets the start in this game against Jacksonville State and plays maybe one of the worst quarters plus in history. And to me, Tavy Jackson was clearly the better quarterback. Now, they're going to tell you that, well, they didn't show it in practice. There's one thing about practice, and then it's when the lights go on. And to me, if it's close, and clearly if this competition was close, you go with the more talented guy, who, by the way, in Jackson's case, has more eligibility. But they decided, you know what, we're going to go with Cam Fancher as the most experience. He can handle opening night. And I think that was their plan. I never believed for a second Cam Fancher was the long-term answer, but boy, he was bad. And I remember, he couldn't hit anything. Really, his best attribute was running the ball. And I'm thinking to myself, well, we have a better quarterback that can run the ball better. If we're going to do that, just go with Brown. They go to Jackson over Brown, and Jackson made plays with his arm and literally won this game in the fourth quarter for them. They were less than a quarter away from a humiliating loss, a loss that would have absolutely thrown a lot of cold water into this Frost sequel, feeling good, optimism. It would have thrown a lot of cold water. A lot of the skeptics would have been coming out in droves right now saying they made a mistake and all this or that. That's what they avoided. And I am going to be consistent about this. I said this on the Night Shift podcast weeks ago. And the only person in this said this. All the other fanboys on all the places kept telling you, well, they're going to blow out Jacksonville State. They should have no problem. Jacksonville State lost everybody. And I'm saying, listen, UCF's not one to talk. They got a lot of new faces. There's a lot of unknown, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And I think you saw what happened. Thankfully, this was not a Rich Rodriguez Jacksonville State team. If this was a Jacksonville State team from last year, they'd probably lose this game. But it wasn't. And Jackson, they made the plays in the fourth quarter and won the game. And that's good. And I've said, just win this game. I had a feeling this would be an ugly game. I didn't think it'd be this ugly, but I thought it'd be an ugly game. You win the game, you build on it. I think the big positive, you win the game, you could still get to a bowl game. I think if you lose this game, the odds of going to a bowl are very slim. Listen, some might argue the bowl has taken a hit just on this performance. However, I'm going to be optimistic on it. But I will say, at least now, to me, Jackson should be your quarterback the rest of the year. I don't think there's any questions now. I think your goal this year is to develop this young man and hope that this is the guy for you for this year and next year when maybe you'll be a better football team next year. To me, playing Cam Fancher doesn't do you any good. I do think Ja'Cory Brown should have a role on this offense. I don't like Jackson taking some of the hits that he did, and I think Brown can help you in that department. I will say that. And so we'll see how that goes. I thought the defense was sound. I didn't sense too many missed assignments. I thought they were there. They made the turnover at the end. They had the one bad drive. They gave up the touchdown. But I'm going to give them a pass, man. They kept them in this game. They're going to get more tested later on in the year when they play real offenses. But I thought, listen, we've seen this defense over the last couple of years blowing assignments left and right, gashed by whoever. I didn't see as much of that. And I think that's a positive, I think, from Alex Grinch's company. But those are my thoughts on it. One of these years, guys, maybe a UCF head football coach will just decide, you know what? We have a competition. I'm just going to go with the guy with the most talent, most upside, just from the get-go. Let's not waste time there. So to me, because I don't think they win this game if Cam Fancher plays the whole game. I don't. And I think that 2-hour lightning delay probably helped them out in that decision. We're going to hear from Scott Frost. I know they can't Fancher in street clothes. I think they're going to say, the injuries what caused him to not come back and all that. I personally think he was going to get benched anyway, and he should have been benched. You weren't going to win with him. You weren't going to win with him at quarterback, and I think we all know that. We all know that. So there's my thoughts. All right, I'm going to read some of the questions and comments, see what you think. How many of you actually, A, went to the game, B, stuck around for the whole game? Which ones of you left and watched the game on ESPN Plus? I'm kind of curious on that, on your questions and comments here. Let's go. Of course, my good friend Brian Peterson is now getting a beard now. He's going to the beard look all of a sudden. Where did that come from? What is that? Goes with the comment. Oof, my heart is still pounding. Yeah, I could say, I could sense that. KU Pobear, excuse me. We won. But we won. Yes. And I think that is important. We won. And I don't take that lightly. I understand it was not pretty, but I said this, and I took the points. If you watch me on Around the Kingdom with Trace, I said take the points. I think it was up to 18, 19 and a half. We should not be that big of a favorite over anybody right now at all. And I said that to Kyle on Night Shift a few weeks back, where I'm like, this team can beat you if you're not careful, because we're not like a world beater at all. So a win to me, I'm not going to go back on that. I'll take the win. Thank you very much. I will take the win on that. Let's see. Fallen Hero, the base legend. Main positive was that we won. We did. Well, let's see how my special guest, we're going to try to have some special guests on this Night Shift live instant reaction, at least when I'm on it anyway. My good friend Mark Moses is on, and he looks despaired. That's not a good sign. But, that they'll see how you go. How you doing, buddy?
It's late, buddy. It's late. I thought this post-game... I thought we were going on at about 9:15, 9:30 tonight. What happened?
I did a post-game show in 2021 against Boise State at 3 in the morning. Remember that game where it just lasted forever? Hey, props to you for staying to your commitment. I would not have blamed you if you just texted me. It's like, man, I'm going for the night, especially after watching that game. Holy macro. For those, first of all, I want your thoughts. Tell the audience what you're up to now, because I know you do a lot of UCF content, so I want people to know about it. So tell us what you're up to now.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Usually I'm not broadcasting at 12:30 at night. It's usually during normal business hours. But yes, just check out my podcast, The Mark Moses Show, here in Central Florida. Also appear on News 13 in Orlando as well, covering all things high school, college, NFL, all that stuff. But I know, I'm just going to say this. I haven't heard you talk yet, but I know you were complaining about the quarterback position, or why did Jackson not start from the first snap of this football game? I know that's what you're saying, Eric, right? Come on.
Mark, I went through the whole history of UCF head coaches whiffing on the opening day starter, going back to George O'Leary, starting Rob Calabrese back-to-back years, starting Pete DeNovo over Justin Holman before the game in Ireland against Penn State. This is a tradition at UCF. It doesn't matter who the head coach is. They're going to get the wrong guy out, and they got the wrong guy again by going conservative. And that's, to me, the consensus here. Coaches go conservative. This guy was the best guy in practice, or this or that. But who's the guy that gives you the most upside? Nobody ever says that. And I think Cam Fitcher, it's great that he has all this experience and he started opening day, but how does he handle the bright lights? Not well. You know who has a good arm and could make a forward pass? Tavy Jackson. I'll take his lack of experience, talent, over a guy who has more experience but doesn't have the talent. But these coaches, Mark, they overthink these things. They overthink it.
Well, the thing with college football, you know this better than anyone, there's no preseason like the NFL. We just have these closed practices where no one gets exposed like you should in preseason. They got knocked in the mouth. I'm just going to tell you this. There were two plays tonight that bailed out UCF, and they're both the targeting plays. In the first half, that should have been a fumble and a touchdown for Jacksonville State. They called targeting. That knocked out the starter for UCF, which you're talking about. And then late in the game, that third down run. Oh, man, when this game was tied, third down, he picks it up, talking about Jackson, and then it's a targeting call as well. That put him in a position to get that go-ahead touchdown. I'm telling you, if UCF, if they were playing Iowa State or Kansas State, the two teams we saw last weekend for week 0 in Ireland, They're not winning this game tonight. I think there are a bunch of plays late in that fourth quarter that helped UCF, but luckily they were playing Jacksonville State. This is a crazy. Burn the tape and move on from this, Eric.
Yeah, definitely burned the tape. I don't think anybody's rewatching this game that has a life. But coaches probably don't. To go back, yes, the targeting. The irony is the Jacksonville State kid that created that targeting in the first half is a former UCF player that transferred out of UCF to go to Jacksonville State. That's the irony. So it was probably actually, in fact, that was probably the most impactful play he has ever made at the bounce house, either as a UCF Knight or against UCF. So props to him on that. I don't disagree with you. By the way, will defend the officials by the letter of the law. They got that one right. I'm not saying I'm a fan of that rule. I'm not a fan of targeting rule, but I think they got it right by the rule. By the rule, they got it right, and I think they got it right on the one where Jackson got hit in the head. And he was running down there. So I don't think, like I said, but you're right. Look, they were fortunate. Yeah, but Mark, it's just yes, I understand there's no preseason games, but to me, Mark, this UCF this year is about transition. To me, go with the guy that gives you the most upside. Go with the guy that could be here next year. Cam Fancher ain't going to be here next year. But J.V. Jackson could be. He could be part of your building blocks. Just go with him and develop him. Go play with him right away. Just like you did with Mackenzie Milton. When Holman got hurt, you decided, all right, screw the red shirting. We're just going to play the young kid Milton in 2016 and let him take his lumps. But these coaches get all conservative about these decisions sometimes. And I'm just like, play the kid, because I think if Cam Fancher, do you agree with this? If Cam Fancher stays in that game, plays 4 quarters, I don't think UCF wins that game. I think Jack literally won that game.
I am with you 100%. In that first half, just some of those throws were, I'm sorry I have to say that they were high school level type throws. Just hit your open man, first down, you're good to go. And that's why, especially in that fourth quarter, this backup, who I'm agreeing with you, should have started this game from the start. His talent, he made some throws in that football game that really helped out UCF getting this W tonight. And what was that stretch? I know the TV announcers were talking about this. What do you have, like 6 straight? Especially, even the drive before that where they tied it up. He made plays that they needed to win this football game tonight. And honestly, going into tomorrow, Saturday, all into next week, it's all right, who's going to be the starter for game 2? And I think it has to be number 2 for UCF with the plays he made tonight. So I'm with you, Eric.
Yeah, Jackson's got it. There's no debate. They're going to spin it however they want to spin it. But Jackson's the guy. If they have any chance to beat North Carolina in a couple of weeks, they could throw whoever they want next week and beat A&T, I think. But although I will say this, prior to this game, I would have said play all 3 quarterbacks against A&T and see what happens. Now I'm almost to the point where I would play Jackson and I would play Brown just to build some camaraderie and chemistry, because they just need to develop some of that. We started seeing some of that with Jackson in the fourth quarter. I would not play Fancher at all. I don't think that serves this at all, at purpose. Like, the only time he should be playing is like mop-up duty at this point. And that's the way it goes. So, but the positive is they won the game and they made the plays, Mark, because it was 10-3 fourth quarter. It looked bleak. A lot of the fans had left because of the weather and the delay and all that stuff. They found a way to win that game. And I do think that's a positive. It was ugly. I'm not suggesting short term they're going to be fine. I think there's a lot of questions. But I do think finding a way to win that game will be a positive for at least this group, and certainly with Jackson.
I agree with you 100%. There were points in that third quarter where it was so ugly, and I put this on X, Twitter, whatever. Those things. Is this like the 2015 0-12? Like, I'm getting deja vus of that, where, oh no, are they going to be that awful? That final year of George O'Leary. But you're right. They made those positive plays in that fourth quarter. And especially, we were talking so much about the offense. The defense made plays all night long. They only held them to 10 points. I got to give credit to the defense as well. And that fourth down play, seriously, tie game, and Jacksonville State goes quick to the line on 4th and 1, and UCF's defense makes a play and gets the ball back to their offense. I know everything's to do about the quarterback. Defense wasn't bad tonight and made plays when they had to, Eric, so I got to give them credit as well.
They kept them in the game. They won this game. I thought Alex Grinch and company, I didn't see many missed assignments. I think that was a positive. I think they were you mentioned that 4th and 1. That was a great read defensively. They sniffed it. They made the kid cut. I mean, the kid probably should not have cut it out, but he did, and there was a defender there. I agree. The defense, I thought, was solid. They had one bad drive. I don't blame them for that. They kept them in this and gave them a chance to win until the offense figured it out. I think that's a great start. It's a good start for Alex Grinch as the defensive coordinator in this night's defense.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where does this team go from here? Because this goes back to a question I asked you all off season. When you look at this UCF football team, what's the identity going to be on offense and defense under Scott Frost 2.0, as I call him? Offense, I'm still not sure. Do we want to run the football? Do we want to go UCF fast like we did in years past? That's my question for you. What did you see tonight where you're like, okay, I kind of have an idea what they want to be on offense?
I think they want to run the football, and they couldn't. Their offensive line struggled against Jacksonville State's defensive front. That's a main concern moving forward. That they were not physical. And I think you saw a lot of the blitzes were not picked up. Some of that, I'm sure, is on the quarterback, but I think some of that was on the offensive line as well. I expect, like, for example, in 2 weeks, when Bill Belichick comes to town, you better believe Carolina's going to be blitzing a lot. And I think they're going to have to rectify that. Can they be physical up front? Because teams are going to play to stop the run and force Jackson to beat him with the arm until he can prove it consistently. I think that will be the blueprint that teams will use against UCF. So I think UCF was hoping they can have a much more success running the football and take the pressure off the quarterback, but that was not the case. Credit to Charles Kelly, a former defensive coordinator at FSU under Jimbo Fisher, had a good game plan defensively and up front. And I thought they played well defensively in the line, and I think gave UCF a lot of problems, and they're going to have to figure that out here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's a great point. I'm with you. Do you feel like they have a starting running back that can – he probably can't do R.J. Harvey, what he did over the last couple of years. That's going to be impossible. I mean, look, second-round pick to the Broncos now. Do you feel like they got a guy, though, okay, this is our guy we're going to lean on in the running back position?
I think they would like it to be Montgomery. I do, with Nixon being more of a playmaker. But, again, and you know this, Mark, if you don't block, doesn't matter who your running back is. You're going to struggle. Yeah. And I think that's the issue they have right now. But I think it is Montgomery. I still believe in Montgomery.
Yeah, even the game-winning touchdown play on third down, that was a kind of, roll the wrong way. Let's see if someone's open. Black was open there for a second, and give credit to Jackson for hitting them. But it's a win. You'll take it. I have so many questions about this team moving forward. I don't have expectations to win 10 games either. I don't. I'm like, look, just get to a bowl game and I'll be happy with this football team. I'll take the win. I'm with you. But I have questions about this team, and I think that the fan base should feel the same way.
Oh, I think they do. I think it's 100%. I don't think anybody's, going to be jubilant. I think there's going to be a lot of questions. I think there's relief. There will be relief that they won this game. But I think there's going to be a lot of questions, and I think there are probably should be questions going on right now in the press conference with Scott Frost about the situation at the quarterback room. I think there's a lot of questions. But again, I will emphasize, you did find a way to win a game, which I think keeps you optimistic. You lose this game, there is no optimism the rest of the year, and maybe for a while. So they did find a way to win the game, but I think there is going to be a lot of questions. And those questions won't be answered, honestly, Mark, until North Carolina on September the 20th.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's funny. I'll just tell you this. So Nebraska won tonight, barely beating. Yeah, they won 2017 with about 30 seconds to go. Cincinnati threw an interception in the end zone. Nebraska wins. They're relieved, beating a bad team, and they're a bad team. And I thought about them, and I think about Scott Frost. Look, Scott Frost, okay, I'm happy he got the win. He did not win many football games over the last 5 years or so. What did he win? His final year there, 2 wins, then they canned him. He won 3 before that. Didn't even go to a bowl game at Nebraska. That's how bad that was. And Coach Frost thinks about those things. This is a good win for him. I think he needs to go on this redemption tour, prove he can win football games at the Division I level, and really, really write his legacy going back in the right direction. I'm rooting for him. You know me, I'm a big Scott Frost guy. I want him to succeed. I think this, like you said, this is a good first step for him. Let's start racking up those W's if you're Scott Frost and the Knights.
I agree. In fact, the broadcast said it best at the end. Scott Frost has a 14-game winning streak as UCF head coach currently. So there you go. That's how he's looking at it.
It's a long time. Hey, man, you think about if you're a student at UCF now, like you're a freshman, when they won in 2018, 17, were you in junior high? It's been a minute, Eric. I'm sorry. We're getting older when we think about this.
Hey, at least it's better than our pro football teams, which is a whole other story. We're gonna have to talk about that in another. We're gonna have to talk about that on your show.
Yes.
Listen, you've been super kind to me. You've stayed up late when you have no reason to stay up late with me and watch this game. So I appreciate you taking a few minutes. I'm gonna let you get some rest, but tell the audience again where they can find you. Because you do some of the best. I mean, we're starving for some nice radio shows here and in the Central Florida market, and that's why I've always enjoyed being on your show, and I still enjoy being on your podcast, which I think is exciting. What do you got? What do you got planned in your podcast? I know you got some plans.
I'm going to have your boy Kyle Nash, who I think is at the Postgame news conference. He's going to join me tomorrow. If he gets some sleep tonight, that's the key. Yeah, we'll break it down tomorrow, get you ready for the holiday weekend. And with all these football games, so Mark Moses' show, just search me online. And I just want to say this before I go. UCF's in the Big 12 and plays in a top 20 TV market. Can we get the bleeping game on local television tonight? I don't understand. South Florida's on national TV. UCF, I got to find an app. I got to find a link for the UCF. This is the UCF Knights. Come on, put it on television. This is ridiculous.
Listen, it's the same ESPN Unlimited that's going to carry WrestlePalooza, Brock Lesnar versus John Cena in a month. So you better catch up with the times, Mark.
I know. Hey, keep up the great work and go Knights. Those are big ones tonight. Okay.
Thank you, Mark. That is my good friend Mark Moses, the Mark Moses Show. Make sure you check out his show. He's awesome. You'll have Kyle Nash on Friday to recap this game. We'll hope to have Kyle Nash ourselves here in a little bit in the ball game. Let's kind of go back to some of the comments from you guys. You guys have sent a great audience so far to this point. Spread the word, by the way. We'll be on most of the year, all year. Live. If we're not live, it's going to be kind of live to tape. Well, depending on, because I will be at some of these games. I do want to go to some of these games. Garrett Weiss chimed, tough game all around. Not sure what to expect the rest of the season. Saw glimpses of hope. I just think they all need more reps. Jacksonville State's a great program. This was a challenge for us. Great program's a strong word for Jacksonville State. They're a respectable program. They beat Florida State and Mackenzie Milton. I kept bringing this up over and over again in 2021. They have 60 new players. They have a new coaching staff, just like UCF as well. So they were they're in transition with Charles Kelly there with the head coach there. So we'll see. Rob did win in practice. Yeah, a lot of good that did for him. You won in practice, and that's great. And if games were decided by how, whoever has better practices, yeah, Rob Calabrese would have been great. But he, when the lights were on, not so good. Not so good. Brian chiming in, thoughts on Jackson getting the spot over Brown? I'll be curious if I'm sure Scott Frost will be asked about that. So I want to see if we get Kyle and Don, I will ask him that. That is a great point, because even on the depth chart, it was kind of Brown or Jackson and Brown or Brown or Jackson. My guess would be they went with the kid that could throw the football better, but we'll see. I'm curious to hear Scott Frost's explanation on that. Fallen Hero, a win is a win. Amen. That's true. A win is a win. Let's see. Was the last call targeting? ESPN Plus switched to a soccer game. I don't know what you were watching. Mine did not switch to a soccer game, but yeah, it was targeting. Although, I mean, I was talking to JB Kilbert, a great line, which I thought the broadcast kind of fumbled the ball on this. The kid that was making those plays late for Jacksonville State is the kid for Scott Steiner, the wrestler, Braun Breaker's brother, I believe. And he was the one that got speared there at the end. I said, wow, it's ironic he got speared at the end there. But yeah, by the letter of the rule, that is targeting. I don't agree. I don't like the rule, but this is a good question, Jeff Wiseman. Would Frost have made the change if Cam doesn't get knocked out of the game? It's a great question. I would like to say yes. I would like to think yes, he should have, because to me, it was the perfect time. You've had this 2-hour lightning delay. Clearly, things were not working for Fancher. And actually, if he did get hurt, it's actually the best of both worlds, because you have, hey, you're not throwing the kid under the bus. You could just say he was hurt and you start. I do think he would have started. He had to. You couldn't come back with that. That was rough. That was rough. Let's see. Big 12 Brad, I'm glad we have the schedule we do and time to make adjustments this season. There's going to be a lot of adjustments going to have to be made there. It's going to be interesting to see. So we'll see how that goes. Rob A, the O-line is a bigger issue than the quarterback. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think we're going to talk a lot about the quarterback. That's the fancy position. But I do think the offensive line was underwhelming tonight. And that's against Jacksonville State. And with respect to Jacksonville State, they're not a power 4 defensive line. That's not a power conference level defensive line. I think that's fair. You hope time goes, that line can gel. But that's fair, Rob. That's fair. D-line, yeah, it's hard to read that game. Maybe they didn't dominate like you would have thought. I mean, the expectations are super high, but I don't think they were bad. But I get where you're saying, they should have wreaked havoc on Jacksonville. So I thought they were fine. I'm not going to go there. I am curious to see how they fare against better competition. But I think the O-line is that you're more dead on the O-line. Next week will be better, and it better be better. It's North Carolina A&T. That's an FCS school. If you're struggling with FCS schools, man, holy mackerel. Let's see. We had no push up front, both sides of the ball. That's correct. I think that's fair, especially on offense. On offensive side of the ball, that was definitely the case. Would not be a UCF Thursday opener without sloppy weather. I agree. You know what was interesting to me? I don't understand why this game was in particular on a Thursday. Like, I understand in past years you play your home opener on a Thursday night. It gives you more time to prepare for, quote, a good opponent in week 2. Think back a couple of years ago, you have Boise State coming up in the slate. That makes sense. This made no sense. You're playing A&T. I would have just played this game Saturday. But whatever. Yeah, that's weird. Pinball Wizard. Frost, I love that name. Welcome to the show. Frost needs time to recruit a bigger O-line. That's a great point. It's a great point. Don't disagree. And I think he has been consistent in saying patience. It's going to take time. And I think that's an example right there. They have 70 new faces basically on this team. You're not going to hit on every player. And I think that's fair. That's a very valid point. This staff's going to have to, I think one of the things you want to know about this season, what are the areas you need to address? And that could be one. And I said this, the question with this offensive line, with all the new faces, the guys that you brought in, were these guys that are talented that just didn't get a fair shake elsewhere? Or were these guys that didn't play much elsewhere because they weren't good enough? We're going to find out this year. And that's the thing. Are these guys that are starting, are they starting because they're good, or are they starting because that's the best they got? So we'll see how that goes. Rodrigo Campos. We got lucky. Some of the plays calls weren't great either. Doesn't help that Frost isn't calling plays by himself. I did not like the sequence where they threw the ball to the tight end. Was it Wade or Fox? I think it was Wade on a 3rd and short. And he got basically no gain. It was basically, if he did, he got a couple of inches. And then they tried to run the ball and got stuffed. That was discouraging. That was a very bleak moment at that point. That was bleak. Let's see. Miles Montgomery is a better pass catcher than I thought. I'm not surprised by that. I've said I think if Miles Montgomery is healthy last year, I think he takes some of the reps from RJ Hardy, and RJ doesn't have the year that he does. And I think he's going to be solid. I do think he needs better line in front of him, but I think, yes, he can be a weapon catching the football. And I expect one thing I do like about this offense with Frost here that I did not like with Gus. I think you're going to use the running backs and receivers. You're going to see that. We saw that the first time around with Killings and Anderson as an example. And I think you're going to see that this time around. And I think Montgomery will be a part of the offense, not just as a runner, but as a passer. And I would expect that for Nixon as well. So we'll go with that. Other thoughts? That's solid. I'll take that. But with how they played tonight in this tough Big 12, that's way too optimistic, but I'll take it. Got to be optimistic sometimes. Well, I think they're talking. Some people are saying 8-4. Reaction to the future Nick Porcello news. Gotta love it. This was my favorite. Future star, WWE future star, Braun Breaker cousin getting speared. That was my favorite part of the game. Not gonna lie. Again, if I was calling that game, I would have been all over that. I thought they did clearly the play-by-play guy is not a wrestling fan. He would have picked up on that. I would like to think. Safe to say special teams were the MVP, some good punts and a blocked field goal. Yeah, the blocked field goal was huge. Punts was good. We missed a field goal, though. So not perfect. Field goal kickers got me a little worried, actually. A little worried about that. Punter was good, though. And the block kick was good. I think that was more on Jack State, though. But we'll see. Can you explain to me something to me about the game production? Who's at fault? Is it ESPN or the producers for what that ESPN does a replay and we miss the first half of the next play? Honestly, that's not anybody's fault. That's just the way this happens all the time. You've got to be really selective on replays when teams go fast. And I think the problem is some of these teams sometimes will go fast, sometimes they go slow, and you get caught. And that just happens. I don't think that's anybody to blame, though. I don't blame anybody to blame. I'll give you an example. I just called a men's soccer game on Wednesday night, UCF men's soccer, and I decided to toss it to the sideline reporter who had a piece. And, because UCF, the ball was at UCF's goal, the goalkeeper, Juan V. Munoz, decides to go airmail, deep kick, hits his target. Guy goes in, scores the goal in Chow to give UCF a 1-0 lead while the sideline reporter is there. So it just bad time, just unfortunate. Sometimes that happens. It's tough because you want to see replays, you want to see what's going on. But sometimes I think in that scenario, teams, they go quicker than you anticipate and you with, that just happens. I don't think that's anybody's fault. Are we worried about Montgomery against North Carolina in Big 12? Do we have another running back that should play? Swint is out, but who else? Thought Frost liked running back by committee. That's interesting. I didn't see much of Nixon. Montgomery's the most experienced guy. I have a feeling I think Frost want to go with his most experienced guys. Montgomery, some of this was the offensive line. No, I'm not as worried. I saw Gage get some snaps there too. So let's revisit that. I think that's more than a running back. I thought Montgomery was fine. It's just, again, I don't think the all line helped them tonight. Wild, messy game. Yes, well, it was a wild, messy game. Happy we adapted and won, and that's the key. They won the game. Talking about another UCF women's soccer's 5-0, beating Florida. Yeah, best start in program history. They won tonight, Thursday night, 1-0 over the Florida Gators. And big win for Sahadak and company. They're 5-0, best start in program history there. I think we're going to be joined by Kyle here in a few minutes. But and then we're probably going to go another tour. We got a great crowd, actually. You guys are awesome. And I really do appreciate all of you, especially at this hour. We are, as we're doing this, 1:06 a.m. Eastern live. 6th season that we're doing this. This is probably our second longest, latest show we've ever done in the 6 seasons. Boise State 2021, I mentioned earlier. We did a show up at 3 in the morning. But that was a win. That was a little more dramatic win. But yeah. People are like, you're still up? Yep, still up. Very proud of it. We'll see for how long. I have an 11 a.m. volleyball match I'm calling tomorrow. We'll see how we'll go there. Eric Edwards, I was worried for a while that this was going to be a depressed group. When you win, it's not as depressing. But it was bleak. Looked bleak. But they found a way to win, and I do think that matters. And I do think the positives there with Jackson in the fourth quarter was very good. And where's Kyle at? That's what I'm texting him right now. We'll see if he makes it or not. It is 1:08 in the morning, so we'll see if he hops on. He should be. He created the deal. But Cincinnati did lose to Nebraska Thursday night, 20-17 to Nebraska. Close game. Mark Moses mentioned that earlier. Houston shut out Stephen F. Austin for whatever that's worth, 27-0 on Thursday night. Those are some of the notable Big 12 games that took place on Thursday night. Obviously, Colorado will play Georgia Tech on Friday. And we'll see what Deion Sanders has. Reaction to the fan rushing the field during the delay and getting tackled by police. Yeah, that's about right. A lot of beverages will do that for you sometimes. I have a feeling the beverages, the boobly, as I like to call them, have something to do with that. I'm going to go over some stats real quick while we have a chance. Tavian Jackson, 17 of 24, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cam Fancher, 5 of 9, 32 yards. Oof. Quarterback rating, Jackson 197, Fancher 85. It's not even close. Montgomery, 21 carries, 79 yards, was mainly to use the runner. Nixon had only 2 carries, -6. They had Dwayne Thomas carry the ball a couple times. How about the receiving game? Dylan Wade, 4 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown. Dwayne Thomas, 4 catches, 49 yards. Montgomery, 3 balls, 71 yards. Black, 3 catches, 59 yards, and a touchdown. The game-winning touchdown, as it turns out. The young freshman, you had a Charles, by the way, had a catch with 18 yards. Burke, 3 catches, 43 yards. Fox, the other tight end, 3 catches, 24 yards, are some of the notable receivers. I think you're going to see the ball be spread out, and I think that's a good sign, too. And both tight ends were used, which was fascinating to me. UCF ended up with 422 total yards. I think that would shock some people if that stat. Jacksonville State, 322. UCF threw for 314 yards. Again, a stat that would shock people. Only ran for 108 yards. Actually, Jacksonville State outran them, 165-108. I thought that was very fascinating, but that's the deal there. All right, let's bring on Mr. Kyle Nash, who's at the stadium. We'll see if technology will agree with him to pop in or not. Nope, technology yet not agreed with him. So we'll continue with the stats until he figures out, yeah, it's good to see. The more things change, the more this stays the same in that complex over there in that stadium. UCF averaged 6 yards a play. Jacksonville State 4.7 yards a play are some of the notables. Time of possession, UCF ended up winning that 31 minutes. Jacksonville State 28, although UCF dominated that early, even though they didn't do anything with it. Both teams had turnover. Both teams had 2 sacks. UCF had 6 tackles for a loss. Jacksonville State had 5. Defensively, who stands out statistically for UCF? Carter, 9 tackles, 4 solos in the game. Dunham, 8 tackles, 5 solos, and a tackle for loss. Antoine Jackson, I really liked what I saw from him. 5 total tackles, 3 solos, leading the way there overall in that deal. All right. We have Don Strouble from the press box. He has no technology issues. While Kyle's still figuring it out at the stadium, we do have Don Strouble there live. How are you doing, Don?
Doing well. That was a contentious game, but UCF came out with a win, a game-winning drive. They handled business over the top to GJ Black, got it done.
Give me your thoughts now. Obviously, it was ugly, not pretty. I don't think let's not sugarcoat it. That was some bad football you saw there for about 50-plus minutes. But I will say this. To find a way to win a game like that does wonders for a team sometimes, especially for the youngster in Jackson. We'll get to about him and starting and all that, but he made plays there in that fourth quarter that I don't think Cam Fancher makes, and hopefully he plays moving forward. But what's your thoughts here now? You've had some time to reflect here. Sits there. It's ugly. There's a lot of questions. I think there's a lot of concerns, but they won the game, and they found a way to win a game. And I think that's a positive.
Yeah, I don't hate what I saw from Cam. I thought that he was more mobile than I initially thought that he would be, and I thought that he had a chance to play a decent game, if not for getting rocked with a little over 10 to go in the second half. But Taven stepped in great. I initially thought to start the season that Taven would be the starter, and he played like a starter. I mean, we're talking about someone 7 of 24, 282 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was poised, especially under pressure. In terms of the team overall, they had a lot of moments where discipline escaped them, but they were able to bounce back and show resiliency, especially late, less than 2 minutes to go. They get a penalty called, makes it a short yardage situation. They're able to force a turnover on downs. And Coach Frost talked about what they need to clean up, but the effort and the resiliency of the group was very strong overall, especially, I mean, they weren't just dealing with a formidable opponent that was there to take this game from them, but dealing with the elements, inclement weather. I mean, we're talking about a rain delay that lasted 2 hours and 7 minutes. I mean, the first touchdown did not happen until 4.5 hours after kickoff. I mean, there's just a lot to deal with there. I mean, Coach Frost talked about guys had to take off their pads and their cleats, and they were eating in the locker room to stay, up on their energy and stay prepared. So it's a lot to deal with, but they kept their head forward and they maintained the task at hand.
What did Scott Frost have to say about the quarterback situation, the Cam Fancher? I'm assuming it was an injury is what he's going to tell you, and then his thoughts on Jackson's play.
Yeah, I mean, with Cam, he didn't divulge too much, but he did say that he was feeling some pain in his back and down his leg. He tried to work it out during the weather delay, but the trainers didn't believe that he could go, and Cam himself didn't believe that he could go. So he turned to Taven. He thought Taven was great, but he's not prepared to comment on who's going to be a starter moving forward. It really just depends on Cam's injury. And he just really didn't want to divulge too much on the topic. He thought that both played well.
Taven Jackson's going to start, or there's going to be a riot in the stands. All right.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Was he asked and I know he's not going to I don't think he's going to give a straight answer on this. Did you think during that delay, the lightning delay, because I felt there was if he was going to make a switch, that was the time to do it because of the lengthy delay. Fancher I hated every throw he had. He was not accurate. And yeah, he moved around better than I think anybody thought. But you know what? If you wanted a running quarterback, you go with Ja'Cory Brown. You know what? Jackson can move too. Jackson can move too. But the difference is Jackson has a good arm. Fancher doesn't. Jackson has the more talent. And I think sometimes you overthink this when you're trying to do competitions. You can tell me about practice all you want. Give me the guy with the most upside over experience. Was Frost asked about the possibility of going if Fancher was healthy? Would he made the switch? I think I know the answer, but I'll let you answer it.
Yeah, our own Bryson Turner asked, what's the future of this look like? And Frost essentially said no comment. He said he didn't want to comment on it right now. But no, I agree with you in several respects, Elo. But I do think that, well, first of all, it was really gutsy and out of character for UCF of any iteration to go a deep shot down the field first play of the game. I mean, that was a gutsy call. Steve Cooper must have seen something. Scott signed off on it. And who knows, if Cam completes that pass, he's off to a great start in his tenure here. I do think that he read there was another drive. I don't remember exactly which one. He read a blitz well, rolled out, and was able to complete a pass. But yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of like RPO situations, certain reads that should have been the read was fine. The execution was not fine. And whenever Kyle Nash logs in here with us, I'm sure he'll talk about his footwork. Taven did more when it mattered most. And he came in and he stepped into the pocket, and he was also mobile when he needed to be. And I think that in terms of just overall mechanics and skill, Taven has the edge, even if, to your point, Fancher has the experience. And as you said, in these kind of situations, especially, you got to take the talent over the experience.
Well, you called for him. The people have been calling for him. They've been asking for him. I can report for a rare time, Kyle Nash is stable, at least on technology. And he joins us now from the stadium. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, gentlemen. Thanks for having me aboard, Elo, and staying up, making it through the rain delay. And I'll say this. I'll jump right into the footwork thing that Docs was talking about with Cam Fancher. Maybe he's experienced, that's fine, but I didn't see a whole lot of poise for the most part. Now, granted, Docs does mention that there was a particular play where the blitz came inside, the tackle forced the pressure inside. Fancher rolls out and hits what might be his best throw of the night down the field. I think it was to Burke. So I think in that instance, he had moments that were good. I think the unfortunate thing, and listen, I don't mean to make light of Fancher being injured, but on the play where he was hit, first of all, the guard was overcommitted inside. Nixon runs right past him on the way out to the route. And then Fancher somehow doesn't see the pressure, which doesn't sound like a poised move. And by the way, folks, let the world remember he's left-handed. That was not a blindside shot. And I picked that particular play, not only to mention that was the one in particular where he was hurt. Scott Frost reports it's something with his back, a twinge he was feeling in his leg that kept him from coming back out. The report is that it wasn't a concussion as of yet. We'll hear more, I'm sure, as the weekend approaches. But if there's a blitz coming your way down the line and you just take it without seeing it and it not being blind, that's kind of a piece where experience is supposed to jump out. You're supposed to see, you're supposed to make the move, you're supposed to do something. And the experienced guy didn't show experience. Whereas the guy that I've been hearing from all my fellow UCF media members throughout camp didn't have the touch, the poise, the development delivered to throw in the final strike for the night. And that's why I feel like I've been calling for Taven Jackson. Maybe he's not experienced, but he has enough touch to hit the balls that are there and enough mobility to dodge things that are happening. The big run, of course, that was then extended by way of the slide and taking the late hit, was really what kind of kept that last drive moving and set things up to get that game-winning score. And it's funny, I mentioned that slide a moment in the press conference after the game that Donnie Docs and I just came from. He had mentioned that he should have listened to KZ. KZ's never said slide, dive, be the aggressor. And well, now he learned firsthand what Coach Milton meant. So a shout out there to all of that. But yeah, that's kind of what we saw tonight. Eric Lopez was the difference I had seen from what, we don't have a whole lot of film on Taven Jackson. between he and Fancher, we saw it firsthand tonight, the difference between the two quarterbacks and what we would have or should have expected from either of them, in my opinion.
I think you're 1,000% right. I think your analysis is dead on. I think the perfect word was the lack of poise. The whole reason Fancher was starting is because of the experience. They wanted poise, right? Well, they didn't show that. Jackson did. That's why this was a bad move for Frost, and it almost cost him this game. But as you know, Kyle, is very well, UCF head coaches have a history of whiffing on quarterback decisions when it goes back to George O'Leary going with Rob Calabrese back-to-back years, which was the first time I get it, the second time unacceptable. The worst one of them all, Pete DeNovo over Holman before Ireland. I've gone over this already multiple times on this show. I'm not going to go, but everybody that's a longtime UCF fan and not one that showed up 5 minutes ago knows the history of this. And I think, Kyle and Don, I think what happens is in quarterback competition, these coaches overthink things. They overthink things and they pick things out, quote, what they think is intangibles like experience. He started in opening night games. He has 20 whatever game. Great. But what's his talent level? How does he handle the bright lights when it matters? There's a reason. Whereas Jackson, to me, is the most talented guy. Now, I don't know how good he's going to be, but I do know this. He has eligibility after this year that he could still come back to UCF. And to me, one of the goals for UCF this year is for them to develop Jackson and to see if Jackson's the long-term answer. That's why they need to play him, and period.
Yeah, and I think that's perfect from you. The short term, we saw the poise and the things I think he could do. Granted, I'm not over here saying that UCF's going to win the Big 12 or anything. Obviously, still a ton of work to do. And hey, the saying goes that this is a coaching generality, that the biggest leap in talent is from week 1 to week 2, and coming out against North Carolina A&T next week. This isn't a team that's going to put up a fight like Jacksonville State. They can tweak things, they can work on things, they can focus on things. I think this was a good lesson for player and coach alike about two things. A, what they need to shore up discipline-wise. B, that this team has poise. It is absolutely amazing when they're challenged, they rise up. The biggest play of the game was a safety coming in, making the big play, number 23. Kelly Lawson, after the game, defensive captain, linebacker Kelly Lawson says, hey, he ran past me to make the play at the end of the game. I usually make those plays. He ran past me to make that play. To see that kind of heads-up poise and ability, that's where you saw poise in the defense. And, hey, even guys so many guys are new to this group there, too. We shouted out the safeties. We threw love at the linebackers. But the big guys on defense were so huge in this one, especially Horace Lockett. I got to call him out. Maybe he didn't start, but he takes up space in a way that a guy that left here for $1.9 million did. Of course, I'm referring to Lee Hunter, and handled business. There was one series in particular, Eric Lopez, where Horace Lockett gets a tackle for a loss, commands a double team the next play, and then gets another tackle for loss in that same series to force the punt of Jacksonville State there in the third quarter. One of the things that definitely kept them out of the end zone for the first 3.5 quarters, right? So we knew the defense would be a high point for this group. They showed it tonight. And I know where you're going, Eric Lopez, and you're correct to do it. This is a G5 team. That's what you're supposed to do. Holding a team to 10 points, 3 for 15 on third down conversions, though I am a little annoyed if I'm a UCF fan that they converted 4 fourth downs. Still, what you want to see from a defense, clean up the offsides, and you think you got something there.
No, listen, Don, I'm going to go to you because I think you wrote the piece on blackandgoldbanneret.com about about Alex Grinch. And people talked about Frost's redemption. This is as much about Alex Grinch, and can he get redemption? A guy that at one point was a hot name as a defensive mind and a coach, and then he hung out with Lincoln Riley for a chunk of his career, and it took him down to the toilet. I thought, yes, Jacksonville State doesn't have the firepower that they even had under Rich Rodriguez when you saw them, Kyle, at the bowl game.
Right.
Like, in fact, I'm kind of glad. I don't think this UCF team beats that Jacksonville State team the way that they would have played out. Thankfully, Rich moved on to West Virginia. We'll deal with him later in the year. But, Don, one thing I liked about the defense, and yes, the competition will get better. I get all that's valid. However, I didn't notice missed assignments. I didn't notice guys out of position. I didn't notice guys getting gashed because they're out of place, like we have seen in the last couple of years over different coordinators, whether it be the Ted Roof year or even the Addison year. I like the scheme. It looked to me the defensive guys knew where they were supposed to be. Now they got beat on that one drive on the touchdown, but overall, I liked where they were, and they made the big play on 4th and 1 that Kyle brought up. Don, your thoughts on Alex Grinch's debut, which I think is a success.
Yeah, he definitely had a good game, and we're talking about a guy who's a Broyles Award finalist multiple times, has had good stout defenses throughout his career, but it's all been overshadowed by his time in Los Angeles under Lincoln Riley at USC. One bad season, and it was rough, guys. I mean, his defense gave up almost 35 points a game on average. However, that same defense was also pretty solid in turnover production. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it wasn't all doom and gloom with USC, as a lot of people would like to believe. So now he comes here after doing a great job with Wisconsin and leading them to high statistical categories, and he's able to make a difference. And this is a defense that has characterized themselves as fast, violent, and athletic. And if he can tap into those things while maintaining a good football IQ and drawing up schemes that play well to their strengths, I think that this can be a team that does some good things. And one place that they've had to really, really clean up is red zone situations. And I mean, JSU got in once, but UCF was also able to hold them. So, I mean, this is a team that gave up red zone opportunities at a 90% clip last season, guys. The Knights couldn't stop anyone in those situations. So we'll see if Grinch is able to make those adjustments with these new pieces. They were working out a lot of kinks. It's game 1. Luckily, they have another fairly easy non-conference game before North Carolina comes to town.
It's a scrimmage, Don. It's a scrimmage. It's a public scrimmage.
I'm trying to be respectful, Elo. I'm trying to be respectful.
Hey, look, in fairness, Kyle, I did tell you that Jacksonville State was not going to be a scrimmage. I said this could be a dangerous game. So I'm not – this ain't – I'm being consistent, fair. This was Jacksonville State is a very respectful program.
Hey, I'm just wanting you to stay consistent when it comes to North Carolina A&T as well.
Well, that's definitely a scrimmage.
Call these early game scrimmages.
That is definitely a
season,
scrimmage.
Eric Lopez, you're calling early game scrimmages. Let's go, right?
Let's do it week 2. They need that.
Yeah, and I'll add this too. You mentioned a lack of misassignments. All the different junk and looks that Jacksonville State was throwing with the run, spreading UCF out, doing what they could, knowing they'd have to go outside some to spread gaps and account for that middle. Because I know people were concerned. I still don't understand why, but I know people were concerned. Well, I do know why. You lost Lee Hunter and Ricky Barber. Still, John Walker was a factor, and you have R.J. Johnson, and then 2 dudes that are 350 pounds or greater. I mentioned Horace Lockett earlier, doing amazing things there. That part was awesome. And then early on, when you saw Jacksonville State move the ball, they were doing it with creative looks. It wasn't just throwing quarterback Gavin Wimsatt at you. They put Cook in there. They had some jet sweeps. They faked some jet sweeps. They had a lot of motion. You had to have your stuff together to get it right. Frankly, from what I saw, Eric, the offsides jumps were mostly from blitzing corners being too excited, running too far up to the line, getting into the neutral zone when the ball was snapped. And I think that's just part of that. I think half of those get eliminated by nerves being galvanized into steel, and the other will just be a matter of comfort. Guys, all right, you had your live fire test. Let's watch film. Let's enunciate what you need to do. Go do it in practice. Be ready for Eric's scrimmage game, and then you're on to North Carolina. See what I did there? On to North Carolina, right? Belichick, it's a thing. Anyway.
That's going to be a theme the next couple of weeks. I want to ask you this, Kyle, because people have brought this up multiple times. You'd be proud. See, you've made an influence on the audience because now people are bringing up offensive line, and they were targeting you. That's why they were waiting for you to come on. They were concerned about the offensive line. They felt Jacksonville State's D-line had the better play of them. What did you see from the offensive line? But didn't seem like a lot of big push. Montgomery didn't have a lot of room. What did you see there with the offensive line against Jacksonville State's D-line there?
For every play where he didn't have a lot of push, I felt like there was one where also Montgomery can drive a truck through the hole, right? It's not like they got beat up all night. It's when they started realizing, hey, they're not going to throw the ball deep. We'll challenge them. They started to put things in the box. And guess what, fellas? Even R.J. Harvey would miss some runs when dudes started throwing things in the box. And Miles Montgomery, as awesome as he is not R.J. Harvey. However, I will mention my favorite moment in the night was Miles Montgomery celebrating after making the big block for UCF's first touchdown. That was fun to watch. But to take it back to the O-line, yeah, you could tell there's still some kinks they're working out. This group is still trying to gel. This group is still trying to galvanize. There were mistakes made, 1,000%. I feel like Jacksonville State's defensive line got their beat faster on a couple plays. You're absolutely right. This isn't a situation where it was just a plug and play. A few guys had to get replaced, but you still had your veterans, as Gus Malzahn enjoyed in his tenure. This was a complete reboot for all intents and purposes. One returning starter started tonight, and of course, that's Big Paul. So with all that in mind, there were going to be errors tonight. That was the thing that was going to happen, especially when you've heard what you've heard, Eric Lopez, from Coach Frost about you didn't really know what you were getting into, completely new coaching staff, a quarterback who you have to respect that may not be a super accurate thrower, but can bomb the ball if you're not smart and kill you if you don't keep your contained. By the way, you'll notice the early third down started failing when Gavin Wimsatt was forced for third and long, right? And how many fourth down conversions were fourth and short because of ground plays? All of that. But to keep it back to the offensive line, I don't feel like this is something that's complete disaster. There were moments Jacksonville State was better, correct. I think more comfort shores things up, and Miles Montgomery has proven he's going to try to run his way through it no matter what.
And the quarterback can help too.
Yeah.
By reading, because clearly Charles Kelly, the head coach of Jacksonville State, is a defensive coach, used to be the D coordinator under Jimbo Fisher at FSU, among many different places he stopped. They came with extra guys on blitzes, and they came home and they were clean. Like the one where got knocked Fancher out of the game, which was the former UCF player. Did you pick, who was the name again? I'm drawing a blank. It was a few hours ago. It was before the lightning delay. That which would have been a Jacksonville State touchdown, got overturned a touchdown. But clearly they wanted to bring more guys at UCF to maybe confuse the quarterback or confuse the offensive line, maybe a combination of both, but bringing the aggressiveness. I do think, Kyle, that Bill Belichick 2 weeks from now, definitely some teams in the Big 12, they're going to bring pressure and put pressure on this offensive line and put pressure on this young quarterback, right? Would you agree with that?
Oh, of course. And
Fagans, thank you, Matt J. Right? Thank you, Matt J. Fagans, right there, the former UCF defensive player who had his most impactful play in his career at the bounce house tonight was that play. Helping, ironically, was the biggest play he helped UCF was by knocking Cam Fancher out. Thank you, Fagans. Appreciate you. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and to your point, Belichick's whole mantra is take away what they do best and make them do something else. And guess what? Taven Jackson said, hey, sure, it's Miles Montgomery, but I might still throw it on you. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, a younger quarterback like Jackson's going to get challenged with pressure. And listen, let's be honest. I felt like Miles had a pretty good protection night. But to your point, there were plenty of places where Jacksonville State sent more guys than they had. The Fancher hit in particular wasn't that. I think 3 people on the same play screwed up. That's why that happened, right? When it comes to offensive line play, I liken it to boxing in one way. You make one mistake, and you can get knocked the beep out. And that's what happened when UCF made 3 mistakes on the same play, right?
A lot of mistakes there, but Don, they win the game. What was the feelings like in the pressers with Scott and even the players? Was it relief, joy? What described the feelings there and what Scott had to say? Because listen, I said this at the open in my opening monologue here. This is a bigger win than the resume suggests for the program, for Scott, in a lot of ways. Because if he loses this game, and boy, what was it, 10, 11 minutes away, it looked like he was going to be losing it. If he loses this game, all that negativity from the previous place is now on the forefront. All the critics are See, what do I tell you? This guy ain't the right guy. And I just think it would have derailed a lot of stuff here that really would have been dark. And I think some fans would have really this is bad. They won the game. I get it's ugly. It doesn't guarantee any success, whatever. But at least you keep optimism and hope. Like, you could come up with the cliches if they would have lost this game, say, well, it's just one game and they'll get better. But the reality is the skeptic and the negativity would have been like the dark clouds would have been all around this program. They won the game. They avoided all that. And ironically, as the broadcast mentioned, I think Greeny and Goalie, our good friend, mentioned, I think it was, Scott Frost is currently on a 14-game winning streak at UCF. That's the only one stat that matters for him as a head coach. What was the vibe in the post-game lock there?
They were relishing in their victory and they maintained an air of confidence, but they understand what needs to be done moving forward. They get that this isn't good enough. And they admitted, I believe it was Kelly Lawson admitted, winning college football games at this level is hard. It's not easy. And we see much better teams than UCF scrum it out with lesser opponents, so to speak. And to your point, Elo, you said that you were worried about Jack State coming into this game. This is a formidable first game. This isn't a scrimmage, as you believe NCAA is going to be. And this is a situation where they're expected to take care of business, but the fact that they were able to win ugly, I think that emboldens them somehow. I think that they can take this moving forward and learn from their mistakes. And no one seemed like I didn't feel any tension in the room. I didn't feel like, there's this underlying level of panic moving forward because the schedule is only going to get harder after next Saturday. No, I mean, this is a team that knows where they need to improve, and they're going to take the steps to do so to the best of their abilities while celebrating getting a victory on opening night.
I told everybody, whether it was 16 and a half, 17 and a half, 18 and a half, or 19 and a half, wherever you looked, I said, take Jacksonville State. I told everybody. So you're welcome if you made income on that. Well, no, because this UCF team should not be double-digit favored over any FBS team. FBS, I said, not FCS, FBS. Just because it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, period. With a lot of unknowns. Now, that being said, right? Would you agree with that, Kyle?
Oh, 100%. And I think this group, being a group that can still develop, my favorite thing tonight that I heard Taven Jackson say when he was asked about getting the opportunity, he said, hey, listen, I've lost quarterback jobs before, but I still got the opportunity, and I relish this opportunity. Something he said plenty of times, when you're a kid, you want this to be in these situations where the defense gets you the ball back one last time. You can win this beast and go home. And then you get that throw and you do it. That's the kind of stuff that you want to see from a group like this. Sure, it's a work in progress, but this is the kind of hunger that starts to build something. Obviously, it's not going to be an undefeated team this or next year, in my ever so humble opinion. But this is the kind of thing that you can build on. And, hey, remember when Jacksonville State game was close? Boy, we weren't ready yet. May just be a memory down the line later on when they become both eligible potentially, right? So
and that's the other thing. Mathematically, I think it keeps them on track to be a bowl team. I think if you lose this game, it's a harder road to be a bowl eligible team, without question. All right, it's getting late, so I know you guys got writing and stuff to do still. So this is going to be no huddle. Quick answers on this. Which skill position player impressed you the most tonight? Starting with you, Kyle. Who impressed you the most?
Burke did amazing things with the ball and fighting for yards once he had it.
Don?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Miles. He looked like RJ tonight in so many situations. Like, yeah, he would get stuck in the box, but there was times where, especially the play down the sideline with the hurdle, he told us, you were there for it, Elo. He told us in media day he would be a fool not to emulate RJ Harvey's game, and tonight was a good testament to his former teammate. I'm excited about him moving forward.
All right, I almost muted myself there. Which defensive player impressed you the most? Who would get your game ball, Don, on defense?
Hate to steal it from Kyle, but No, I'm going to go with Kelly Dawson. I don't want to steal his guy because I know who Kyle's going to say. No, Kelly was awesome. I mean, the blocked field goal, I mean, he was poised. He came in there. He did his job as a captain. He communicated, and he made things happen down the stretch and set an example as a first-time captain and a new player at a new school.
It's Horace Lockett.
Who's your guy, Kyle?
Donnie Cox already knew the answer. It's
I didn't want to steal it from you.
All right, very good. Very good. All right. The biggest thing UCF must improve on in their public scrimmage next Saturday night is what, Kyle?
Quickness with the plays, confidence with the plays, which if Taven Jackson starts, I think they'll get naturally.
Discipline overall. I can't believe they only had 9 penalties. It felt like a lot more. And Coach Frost said that the issue wasn't so much the penalties themselves, it was the timeliness of them, as we seen late in the game. You know, you're under 2 minutes, they're getting into your territory, and you're giving up stupid stuff. They need to be more disciplined on both sides of the ball, but mainly in the trenches on the offensive line. They need to give their offense good looks, and they need to have the opportunities going down the field. Like, I mean, Miles should have had his first touchdown of the season last night. It gets called back. Stuff like that can get cleaned up and ensure success moving forward.
That'll be next Saturday night. But again, the good news is 1-0 for UCF. And what's notable about this, Monday night, I don't know if you've heard, but TCU is going to play in North Carolina. There's a new head coach making a debut at Chapel Hill. They call him Chapel Bill. He's Bill Belichick.
Oh.
If Carolina wins, you've heard of him, Kyle?
I thought there was some other chick that was coaching. Oh, wait, that's his girlfriend. Sorry, my bad. I got mixed up.
A girlfriend that's, I think, Don's age, but that's a whole other story for another time. But I've been told by some sources, Carolina wins that game. They would have an easy game next week. I've already mentioned UCF has a public scrimmage next Saturday night. Go check it out against A&T. If both teams are 2-0, might get a big noon return for North Carolina UCF.
I'm all about talking to Rob Stone again. That would be great.
That is in play for either a noon kick or a 4 o'clock kick. If Carolina wins, I may have to write about that on blackandgoldbanneret.com. But we'll see. Carolina's got to win. Carolina's got to beat TCU, which is a bit of a conflict of interest because if you're a Big 12, you need big wins out of conference from your teams. And certainly Cincinnati did not do that against Nebraska on Thursday night. So, gentlemen, tell the audience what they can expect now on blackandgoldbanneret.com as well as on KnightShift, the YouTube channel.
Well, first of all, I'll be doing my thing on the blackandgoldbanneret.com. Bing! Doing the making the grade, letting you know how I think UCF performed in the various stages of the game. Here's a spoiler. The offense isn't getting the highest grade. So with all that in
don't say.
I want to go out on a limb and let you guys know. Of course, check out all the interviews from Postgame coming up in the next couple days, leading up to, of course, when we come back Monday after Scott Frost press conference, where I translate what I think he's trying to tell us in our next edition of Frost Bites. So there's that going on coming up here on the Banneret. And, of course, Night Shift Live is doing the thing here. If you missed it tonight, make sure you check it out on the pod or on the Night Shift YouTube channel. Like and subscribe, all that happy stuff.
You're muted.
No.
Don, you working on anything outside of your mustache? You working on anything else?
Yeah, I will be getting all those interviews up. You guys will be able to hear from Scott Frost, Kelly Lawson, DJ Black, and the game-winning QB, Taven Jackson. We got a treasure trove of interviews tonight, guys, and we'll be posting all of those to the YouTube channel. Check it out on Night Shift. I will also be keeping up with our social media. You can find us at UCF Banneret_SBN on X, Black and Gold Banneret on Instagram, Threads, and Facebook. And we don't keep up with it as much nowadays, but you might see some stuff from Jeff Sharon on Blue Sky. Unfortunately, that username is escaping me, but keep up with us on our major stuff. I will be getting some different kinds of content out throughout the week. Hopefully be able to back Kyle up and get some more stories out as well. And yeah, We're back, baby. It's football season. You're going to be hearing a lot from us.
I was going to mention a blue sky joke, but instead I'm just going to promote the fact that Kyle Nash will be Mark Moses' guest on his show on Friday. I don't know if Mark Moses announced that. So Kyle, you got you're going to have more coverage on that. We'll be here all year round. Don and Kyle will be there for the public scrimmage. I'm excited you guys get to see a scrimmage finally and open to the public next Saturday night when UCF takes on North Carolina A&T. Gentlemen, thank you for the good work on the late hours. The good news is this wasn't Boise State in 3 a.m, so look at it that way.
Yeah, I didn't get home till 5 a.m. that night. That was nuts. Anyways, with that in mind, gentlemen, an honor, joy, and privilege. But until next time, class dismissed.
All right, that is Kyle Nash and Don Strouble following the Knights' 17-10 win on that one. And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Night Shift. Season 6 live will be on every week after UCF football game. Some get, home and away. We'll have a post-game instant reaction show for you. Mostly from the stadium and home games. And content on the YouTube channel as well as on the podcast feed. Make sure you blackandgobetter.com for Kyle's recap there and his breakdown with his grades. And we'll have obviously get you ready for the North Carolina A&T game. We'll also get you ready on the Olympic sports, UCF, women's soccer, undefeated, first time in program history. They've started 5-0. They beat Florida on Thursday night, 1-0. Congrats to Tiffany Roberts-Hadak and the Knights. Men's soccer with a monster game Sunday night against number 23 North Carolina Greensboro, 7 o'clock ESPN Plus. It'll be me and Ryan Davis on the call for that one. And then the Matt Botsford era for UCF volleyball begins Friday night when UCF hosts Chattanooga. On that one, Despina Barton, the voice of UCF volleyball, will be on the call for that one as well. And of course, again, Kyle and Don will be there for North Carolina A&T and UCF next Saturday night. We'll get you ready all week long for all that game. Thanks to Mark Moses for joining us on the show at the Open. Thanks to Kyle and Don. And mostly thanks to all of you that have tuned in at these late hours. Hope to see you all year round. Thank you for your comments and your questions. Hope we if we satisfied and answered most of your questions, we'll try to do this every time after UCF football games. And to our best of our abilities, and stay with us. We are the show. We are the ones that have people in the press box. We're the ones that have people in the locker room. We have the people in the pressers. We've covered this game with a ton of experience. We're decades of experience, and we're just going to break it down, instinct, and just tell you the truth and let you hear it out. So that's the only show that could say that, among others. So thank you for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast feed. You'll get this show as well as other regular Night Shift shows throughout the year and the season as well. And, of course, check out Night Shift on the YouTube channel. Subscribe and give us a thumbs up there on there as well. And, of course, follow and read blackandgobanneret.com. So, for Kyle Nash, for Don Strouble, I'm Eric Lopez saying good night as the Knights and the Scott Frost return debut wins 17-10 over Jacksonville State. I'm Eric Lopez saying good night and charge on.